Dad, I respect that, but I don't need preached to. And he got up at that very moment. Just minutes after that, he died in my arms. And there was a seed there planted. Mm-hmm. And that seed is where I say this all came to be out of that seed. I started my journey.
Okay.
And that journey, doing one-on-one ministry with seniors and those with physical disabilities in nursing homes. Mm-hmm. Lord, what are we going to do? How do I do this? And he said, trust in me.
Well, I'd like to welcome Wayne Thomas and Kind at Heart Ministries. I'm also here this evening with Melissa Maybury.
Yes.
And Kind at Heart has been a ministry that Church Alive has supported and been involved with for a number of years.
Yes.
They are a wonderful, wonderful ministry to widows, the elderly, folks who need help in their homes getting around, and those who are lonely and at a stage of their life where they have not as many loved ones around them to take care of them. That's right. So I want to welcome him tonight. Thank you for coming out here and taking this time with us. I guess we'll open up. Did you have a group of questions that you want to start with, or?
Well, I was hoping just to get to know you just a little bit.
Get to know me a little bit. Well, hey, thank you so much. Thanks for inviting me to this. This is these type of things don't scare me; they excite me. So I love being able to tell what Jesus has done in my life. Just give you a little bit about myself. I'm an ingredient that I always rely on, and that is seeking His presence in His Word, in His heart, and I just as I think of a young man. Well, I say I'm young, but now I'm 46, so I guess I'm 46. Maybe I'm 45. My wife said I was wrong the other day when I said 46, so I haven't thought about it. But anyhow, I guess I am 45, not 46 yet. Now that I'm thinking of my time, but I have a wife, 25 years we've been married.
Awesome.
She's a beautiful bride. I love her very much. Continue to find out how much I need her and depend on her. And then we have two sons. Both of them are 20. One's 26 and one's 24.
Okay.
Our oldest son still lives with us. He probably will live there. He's just dad and mom's helper, God's helper. He's totally sold out for Jesus. He's unbelievable. If you saw him in his truck, he's got a truck that's got Matthew 5 scriptures all over. The first top of his windshield is the scripture of the Sermon on the Mount. But anyhow, he is all about Jesus, plays drums in a worship band, and he serves people, and he works for Kind at Heart in a way that he just goes out and serves widows. Okay. My youngest son works with me too. He works in our personal business, and he works in Kind at Heart. And he's got a wife, and we've got a grandson. With him, he's 2 years old, and I love grandsons. So it's Pappy's boy. But anyhow, and we've got another granddaughter on the way. She'll be here in January. So we're really excited about having a family that's seeking the Lord, doing this ministry together. It's not I don't see that often in whole families. Just the whole family just grasp the vision of what Kind at Heart's given the founder, but that's what I've got. I've got my whole family on fire for God, and we're seeking the Lord, and we're serving Him with this method, Kind at Heart.
Love it. So tell me a little bit, because I saw on the website, so for people who haven't seen the website, how this ministry started, and then more so, like, how did family get behind this and say, this is part of our calling too?
Yeah. Most people, when they're wanting to hear about Kind at Heart's story, the first question they ask me, they just think I've always been in a Christian, and I tell them, I say, no, I was an unbeliever. I wasn't raised up in a Christian home. I was by my family that was close to me. Really, my mom and my dad. My mom was a great woman, but she did not have no understanding of Christ or even care to until the end of her life, which she passed away a few years ago, cancer, but she was on fire for Jesus when she did, so that's amazing. But my dad also passed away of lung cancer at early age, at 51. And the cool story starts with him. My dad got saved by a TV evangelist. And it was right after he was diagnosed. He was seeking answers, and he was in his living room, and he got saved, and it was transformation for my dad. All of us kids, there was 5 of us, and none of us believed anything he was saying, but we could tolerate him now. He was a little different, and we had kind of we didn't have good things to say about Dad at that time. But now he was like, everything I taught you or everything I said to you is wrong. Jesus is the way. And he knew his time was short. He was diagnosed with lung cancer, and the doctors, the treatments, they gave him 6 months to live. He lasted a year. Cool thing is my mother remarried him in that last year, and she loved him till the end. And
precious.
And we all came back around and helped Dad, and was supportive of Dad. And I remember the last time this was the day I was holding my dad. He got up out of his bed, and this is kind of a dramatized deal here, but he literally died in my arms. And before he got up and out of his bed, he said, "Son," actually me and my brother both were in there. My brother's a sheriff, by the way, now, so loves Jesus and a sheriff. But anyhow, my dad said, "Boys, why don't you guys go to church? And why don't you love Jesus like I do?" And at that time, my brother got up. Oh, here we go again. He walks out of the room. And then I'm just like, Dad, I respect that, but I don't need preached to. And he got up at that very moment. Just minutes after that, he died in my arms. And there was a seed there planted. Mm-hmm. And that seed is where I say this all came to be. Out of that seed, I just started having, just after that, after my dad passed and everything, and me and my wife moved into the old home place together. And then I started having a dream. And this dream was me on this white horse, and I was in this hospital. I thought I was in a hospital because I never knew these nursing homes ever even existed. But I thought I was in a hospital, and it was clearly older people. I was roping, and I was pulling out of this. They were hanging onto this ledge, fixing to fall into this fiery pit. And I would pull them out of there, and often suffer the fear of all that. I always saved them until my very last dream I had. The rope was breaking, and I knew I was going to lose this person, and I cried out to the deep spot of my soul. And there was this flashing light and a picture of Jesus. That's what I had, because I'd seen a picture of Jesus before. And I got up. It was 4:30 in the morning. I get up, and I sit down at my dining room table, and the one thing I kept of my dad's was his Bible. And his Bible, in that last little bit of time, he'd went plumb through it. It was phenomenal. All marked up, and I opened the Bible for the first time. And when I opened it up, there it was, John chapter 3. I start reading. I didn't know where I was going. I just opened it and started reading. And I read this story about this man named Nicodemus, and how I must get born again. And that's where I get on my knees and I give my life to Christ. I repent of my sin and I turn to Him. And that starts my journey.
Oh, wow.
And after that journey, I find a man who was in my life as a high school. He was my football captain. Or no, he was a football coach. I was the football captain my senior year. And so I go to him, found out he's no longer a football coach. He's a pastor. And he answers these questions I have. Why am I going after this God like this? And he's like, I don't know what to say. All I can say is I've never seen it so passionate in somebody like you. You've got a calling on your life. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, okay, well, all right, well, how about I do what you're doing? So I start spending time with him, and he takes me to a nursing home for the first time in my life. And we drive up to the nursing home, and I'm like, where is this place? And he's like, well, I got to go in here and visit somebody. One of our members was in a car accident, and they're in here temporarily. This is a place where they rehab them. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay. And when I get out of the car, I'll never forget little Rosella. And she's sitting in her wheelchair. And of course, I've never been here before, didn't know nothing about this place. And she's looking out the window, no teeth, colonoscopy bag on her side, and she's just staring at me like this. And I'm like about to ask him, why is she staring at me like this? And anyhow, we go and we step inside the entryway. And he starts telling me he'd been there a few times. So he's like, just, it's down that aisle over there. This is the room I'll be in. And this little lady wheels around in her wheelchair. And she didn't go up to him. She came up to me and she wrapped her arms around me and hugged me. I'm like, is this normal? And he's like, it's never happened to me. And he's like, that's kind of weird. And anyhow, I said, what do I do? And he says, well, pray with her. And anyhow, I put my arm on her. I say a prayer. And then she goes on her way back over there by the window. But it was this, my shepherd's finally here.
Wow.
Is what I felt. This is a welcome. This is like God says, you're here where I've called you. Mm-hmm. I've called you. And so he says, well, I'll go to the room. Just look around and then come find me. Mm-hmm. I get down the aisle, and I'm 20 foot down this aisle. And this is where I was in the dream. These are the people I was rescuing.
Wow.
I have this Holy Spirit just gets a hold of me, and I run out of the facility. I go out, and I'm sitting in his truck just weeping in the Lord. And this is all new to me. I'm only 3 months in this, and God's already just wiped my bank. I mean, I'm just totally sold out, and I can't even understand it, don't care. All I know is I love it. And I'm there weeping, and he comes out, and he says, I was waiting on you to come to the room. I don't know how long I was sitting in the truck, maybe an hour at least. Mm-hmm. And he's like, you okay? And I'm like, and I'm telling him, this is where I was in the dream. And I told him about this, and he couldn't answer the questions. Mm-hmm. But I said, what do I do? He says, well, talk to the activity director. Maybe you just start doing ministry here. And that started my journey.
Okay.
And that journey, doing one-on-one ministry with seniors and those with physical disabilities in nursing home, would expand to 3 years later. I would be doing this type of ministry in 3 different nursing homes. Very intentional, very passionate. At that very time, I was going back to school. I got laid off at my job, and they paid to retrain me. So I had about 2.5 years of schooling at Rogers State University. And I went to school, got through that, and realized I don't think I even need that anymore. But anyhow, I went there. But I come back, and I'm just like, Lord, how do I do this? I have no money. Mm-hmm. And now I got to go back to work. I got a family, 2 kids, mm-hmm. and a wife, and nobody understands. I need to spend time with these people. So what do? I start going to churches, and I start putting a resume in. They wasn't even hiring. I still put a resume in. You know what I'm saying? And what my job, I build my own job. I'd say, hey, I don't have time to do anything but go to nursing homes and visit these people. Here's all the names. Here's all the rooms. Here's the need. And everybody's like, we ain't never heard of this before. You can volunteer and do that, but we don't have a payroll for that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, really? It was like crazy to me. It's like, how can, so now I go into reality. I'm like, how can these people go without me? Mm-hmm. God, you put this in my heart. And so I'll never forget, this is where God just really came through for me in a big way, which he always does. And I'm at my ends wit here because I've got to go get a job full time, and I don't have time for these people. I don't want to break their hearts. And I say, Lord, what are we going to do? How do I do this? And he said, trust in me. So what do? I call a friend I have who's an insurance agent, and I am going to Grove Nursing, that was one of the facilities I went to. It's about a 1-hour commute from Siloam Springs.
Okay.
And I had no gas money to get there. And I call a friend that had been a guy that put in my life, and he said, I'll meet you at the gas station. I'll put gas to get you there. And so he puts gas in my vehicle. I go to the nursing home, and I'm like, Lord, how am I going to continue to do this? and the Lord says, trust in me. And I end up walking in this home, and I want to tell this to you because these are the things that kept me going, the God stories, right?
Right.
And so I'm there, and there's this, I had been at this time about 3 years of doing ministry, and there was this lady that was outside the facility with her mom. And her mom, I had been ministering to her mom for years, like about 2 years, and her mom, when she came in there, did not want to be there. She was so mad at her daughter. She was mad at everybody, at the world.
Yeah.
And she didn't understand why they put her in here. And I helped her cope.
Yeah.
I helped her find reasoning through the scriptures. And, well, her daughter was there. Her daughter, your brother Wayne? You're the one Mom always talks about. I've always wanted to meet you. She says, I want to support your ministry. And I'm like, really? And I'd not had any funds at all before that point. And she goes, how do I do that? What do I need to do? And I said, well, what do you mean? She goes, I want to support you monthly. I'll send you a check every month. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not a nonprofit at that time. It was just Wayne Thomas Ministries. I didn't even know how to start a nonprofit. And I'm like, well, I guess you could send the money. She said, that's fine with me. I don't need a write-off. I don't need it. I owe you more than I could ever pay you. And she sets up and starts sending me $100 a month. Gives me $100 that day and starts sending up. And then I get into the back of the facility after about 2 hours of visitation, and there's another lady in there that was a friend of a resident. And she comes up to me and she says, you've been in here all these years, and you spent all this time with these people and with my friend. She goes, how can I support you? And she signed up for $200 a month. And then I'm on my way back home, and I get a call from the church that I'd been going to, and they said, the board just approved, we're going to support you $200 a month. In one day, God bought $500 a month
Wow.
to me, and he said, we're just getting started. And it boosted me. So I said, okay, I'll go back to work, and I'll continue to do this, downsize it to where I can. I went back to work. I went back to work in a way that it wasn't like, oh, I lost my dream and now I'm going to have to work. It was like, all right, I'm going back to work, trusting the Lord to provide, and eventually I'll be out of here. So, that's kind of how it went. And so there you go. That's the start.
Wow. That's an incredible start. That was way more than just the dream.
It was. I'm sorry, but anyhow.
No, I love it. I love
Yeah.
it. That's incredible. And just to see God's provision to say, yeah, we're doing this.
Yes, yes. And, and here's what I've learned through Scripture is it's never about the size. Most people ask me, how do you do it? And I always say, well, it's pretty simple. You just do what Jesus would do. You said it a while ago. We just do what Jesus would do. And so God branded my heart, and I don't expect everybody to get behind the mission of Kind at Heart. However, I do expect everybody to think about if they should or not. Because if it's not Kind at Heart, for sure it makes sense that we sow into the aging generation. Right. Because what goes around comes around. And one thing that none of us can say is I figured out how not to age. We will be there. It will be us. And when you have to ask for help, that's hard.
Yeah.
We're independent now. Trust me, just because you age don't mean your independence goes away. You want to keep that. And so the only way we're going to break the cycle, and this is where Kind at Heart really is, if the outside world culture goes to, you know what? It's not a burden to be there for seniors. It's an opportunity and a privilege to be there for seniors. And if I can be involved in their life now while they're there, when I get there, maybe the generations around me will be involved. Culture will be there for me. And I just really believe that that's what God's doing in this season. He is raising up an army, and he's using Kind at Heart to do it because we are unique in our approach. For one thing, we don't do business without Christ. Christ is our center. Jesus is the core. Okay. And you can't go build a ramp and say, hey, we build ramps. You got to go say, hey, we build a ramp for the purpose of sharing Jesus. That is the message of the Bible. And so everything we do, you share Jesus. And what we learned with older people is they don't care what you know until they know you care. So projects is for the very purpose of just building a ramp to their heart, we call it.
Okay.
And then when we have that heart close, we're close to that heart, then we share Jesus. And that changes lives and transforms people's mindset of who Christ is and what God has for them. You know about that, Ben. We experienced that with someone here with your church, Church Alive, you know, and maybe you could kind of lead into that story a little bit.
So we had a member of our body, Janet Berger, who went home to be with the Lord and had been a long-standing figure in our body. She was a strong intercessor, a strong evangelist, loved Jesus, loved her kids and her grandkids. But we became aware towards the end of her life that she was living in a condominium in Bella Vista, and that the deck out back was really in poor shape. And the concern was that it was becoming very unsafe for her. And she used it for her quiet time. She used it for her puppy to go out. She used it just for her ability, as her mobility declined, to get outside of her home and enjoy a little bit of sunshine. And had known Wayne for quite a while, became aware of this need, and really felt like the Lord said, call Wayne. And so we were able to assemble a team. Really appreciate them. We were able to refurbish, rebuild the deck, upgrade it. And so we finished the project. There was a Sunday evening that we were gathered as a body for fellowship. And we typically give opportunity for members of the body to come up and share. And Janet asked for the mic. She was able to stand up and ask for the mic. Very emotional. But what she said was she was amazed that the body had been there for her. She was happy she had a deck. She was very excited. But just that someone would recognize her need, being in a state in her life where a lot of her family had gone home. She had a wonderful daughter that took great care of her, wonderful brother, sister-in-law, but much of her close family was gone, and for the body of believers to come in, it really meant a lot to her. So that, I think, impacted a lot of us who knew her. When she went home, we took that with us, the importance of being there for that older generation. So
You know, it's amazing. When I think of her and her story, I remember talking to her and getting to know. Two things stuck out and this is common across the board, Melissa, with all of pretty much the majority of our clients that are older. Two things are usually there. One is a love for a puppy. Okay, that is their children. That is their. And I would say 75% of them have some sort of animal, whether it be a cat or a puppy or something. And then they may have more than one. And then I'm trying to figure out how to keep them not to have so many. But reality is they need that. And then the other thing is loneliness.
Right.
And and I believe that God is called kind at heart to cast a vision where, even though we're busy in the church world and we're trying to serve the Lord, often what we do is we overlook opportunities. And it can be financial thought of the burden of that. It can be, how do you really connect with that person and the location of where they're at? It's in most churches, it's easier for us to connect with somebody when they come to us, right? So they come to the body.
Right.
But what we say, ministry simple, do it like Jesus. Jesus said this: leave the 99 and go love the one.
Yeah.
And that's what you see in her. You saw a God restoring some broken hurts, some lack of connection, and he's just bringing everything. He's taken a project that wasn't cheap, by the way. And he's taken a project that was, in one sense, complex and cheap. And most people would hear that and say, sorry, you just don't need to go on that deck anymore and get rid of your dog. And reality is, in most cases, that's what has to happen for a lot of these seniors. But you guys fought through for her, and you found a way to love her. You didn't care about the cost. You pressed in. You said, Lord, you own the cattle on the hilltops. Make this happen. If it's your will, we want to be obedient. And then you embraced her need in a way that she felt restored and reconnected, and loneliness was impacted. We didn't take loneliness away because it's just part of that season. It's there. But I believe there's a revival coming to the church when we see opportunity to love people as an opportunity to impact loneliness and take it down. And especially if we do it through the lenses of that one is just as important as the 99. I mean, honestly, the formula that's out there is the biblical kingdom formula is that if the 99 feel like you will care about them when they're the one, then every one of the 91 will be excited about the church.
Yeah.
But if the majority of the 99 are like, you know what, we really don't have anything to really help somebody when they get in these that when they become alone and one and they're not coming to our church, then they're like, what if that's me? And so they start questioning the faith. They start questioning the love. And so when you can, in a practical way, you don't have to help them all. You just have to help them. The ones God puts in front of you, and be willing to respond. And I think that's what we're trying to raise up in the church. We're trying to say, hey, you can do this. You know, I mean, there's ministry in our own backyard. Our own grandmas, our own grandpas need our love. And when they get that, can you imagine the generation below them that'll be blessed? Can I share a scripture with you guys?
Please.
So this scripture is one of our forerunner scriptures, and we've got several of them. I'll be here all night if I can quote them, by the way. So we could be here all night. I don't need my Bible in front of me. But this one here really sticks out. And this is Malachi 4, 5, and 6. And so this is interesting enough. The last word in the Old Testament, guess what it is? Anybody know? All right.
Age.
Curse.
Oh.
Ha! The last word in the Old Testament is curse. And it's based off of this prophecy. And I believe that this is an end-time prophecy. I believe there's a fulfillment through John the Baptist, but there's a laying out fulfillment for the last days. And so and what it says is, before that great and dreadful day, I will send the spirit of Elijah into my people. And I believe that's the Holy Spirit. Will lead the hearts of the fathers to the mothers, and the mothers to the children, or the fathers and mothers to the children, and the children to the fathers and mothers. And when this happens, the land, well, let me back up. It actually says, unless this happens, the land will be cursed. Now, I put on my spiritual glasses when God called me to this. And I read it this way. I'm like, nope, don't say that. It says, before that great and dreadful day, I will send the spirit of Elijah to my people, will lead the hearts and fathers of the mothers to the children, and the children to the fathers and mothers. And when this happens, the land will be blessed.
Right. Absolutely.
It's that generational curse. You see, if we don't realize that God designed it for young people to embrace their aging parents, whether they knew much or whether they liked them or whatever, it is honor. Honor does not expect anything back. If we're waiting for them to do something for us to give them something, that's not honor.
Right.
Honor is this, Leviticus 19:32. It says, stand up in the presence of the old-aged, white-haired man and honor him in reverence to the Lord. It has nothing to do with that person even. It's about what we do unto the God.
Yeah.
We honor Jesus, our Lord, when we honor them. A cool example is when my two sons, I had one son he became a black belt young. And so Taekwondo was his sport, and he was really good at it. And I remember he had, just before getting the black belt, he was working up to that. And we went to Branson. and they had this show up there where they have these kung fu masters or whatever, and he wanted to go to that. And I'll never forget, we have this auditorium, and we walk in. It's me, my wife, and both my sons, our sons. My wife will get mad at me. She hears this, and I don't say our. But I'm studying her. Anyhow, here we are, and we're late for the show, and we're rushing in there, me, my wife, and our oldest son, Tyler, and I can't find Austin. And I look back behind me, and I'm like, he's about 9, 10 years old. And I look back behind him, and I'm like, what are you doing? Get over here. And he's like, stop. And he's sitting there at attention. And I'm like, come on. And he's like, stop. And he had this salute. And all it was about 10 gray-haired beard kung fu masters coming through the auditorium and around.
Oh, wow.
And he stood in attention to them. And I'm telling you, if that ever struck my heart, I said, that boy is showing honor to the gray-haired man.
Wow.
And that's just stuck into me as what if that could happen in America? What if young people, instead of having these riots on these other things, what if we stood up and said, no widow left behind, no older person left unloved? What if we said, loneliness, we're going to take you out with our love, huh? What if there was that type of rising up and revival? And then what's that say for you and I, Ben? I mean, you're close to my age, you're probably younger, a little younger? What are you?
45.
45? We're the same age. Oh, my goodness. So 45, and that wasn't planned. But anyhow, we're the same age, and yet here we're
planned
at.
it.
Yeah, 20 years. God, I believe life is in cycles. So, I mean, our years are in cycles. It's always different 20 years later. And so here we are at 45, and we're like, I'm going to be that 65 in the next 20 years. Do my kids really care about that age? Do they even know? Am I teaching those values in my home? Is my church really embracing that? Do they really understand the importance of what God says in the scriptures of how important is it to love widows? My Bible says only pure religion loves widows and orphans and meets their needs. And so, do we want pure religion? I believe we got to seek that. And that's the rising up in this last hour. One thing that we've done with Kind at Heart is we built this service team platform where the marketplace and the church and different organizations can sign up and go serve a senior in our community. And last year we had over 100 groups serve within that platform. And when I remember when I started, I had the first year maybe 3 groups signed up, and I had to beg them. I even had to rope them and get them there. But now God has just blessed us with all these groups signing up. And I think you guys participated in did you participate in a project where you guys served with us one time?
I think we signed up for one, and there was some things.
Okay, it didn't happen, but you were going to. And so, but at the end of the day, what are we doing to make sure our young people know that it'll one day be them?
Yeah.
And what goes around comes around. And the Bible says honor. God designed it that way. Do you know that in the older days, in the Bible days, that the blessing that Malachi 4, 5, and 6 is talking about had to be passed down? But the only way you could get it is if you wanted it. You can't get God's blessing if you don't even care to even think about it.
That's true.
And unless you're holding a sign up saying, Lord, I want your blessing from my grandparents, my parents. I need it. I'll do whatever it takes for it. God's not going to give it to you.
Yeah.
And so the outcome of that is generational curse. And boy, have we seen that in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
15 years.
Yeah.
Things that I would never, when I was a kid in school, me and you, Ben, we would never thought people would be okay with. And now they get mad at you and have some sort of bad thing to say because you're against it.
Yeah.
And we've got to come back to this principle of honoring our elders.
I would agree. Very much agree.
Yeah. Any more questions? I get going, so how we get going. So I got a lot to share, so we can narrow down.
One of the things that I enjoy about Wayne is that he is fantastic planner, organizer, budgeter. He's a great steward. But in this season, in the late part of the year, he is a strategist.
Yeah.
And so we were blessed and honored to get a few of the ideas that he has for 2026. I want to focus on the initiative that you're working on. And I know that we've talked about it before, about providing seniors who are lonely and feeling like they've been left behind, stirring up their gift, specifically for those who are just unbelievable intercessors.
Yeah. Yes.
You know, when you're in a stage of life where you don't have as much responsibility in your career, or maybe you've retired from your career, these folks are really strong prayer warriors. So talk to us about that initiative.
Yeah, I'd love to. I mean, Ben, I'll tell you, I think it's the greatest project we've ever done. I think it will transform everything. Our future depends on it. That's why when God gave me this, I tested this out in the nursing home a few years back. We had a fundraiser, and I said, you know what? What if I was to find the 20 top prayer warriors in that nursing home that I've learned to know, and I give them a laminated prayer agenda to pray over daily. And I remember the guy that I was talking to, he says, why would you laminate it? And I said, because they're going to drool over it. And literally they do, you know, in that type of, and so we went around and when I gave them that, they were like, so, man, I cherish this. They put it by their beds. They picked it up. They prayed over it. They continued to talk to every time I'd come back. This was their subject. What have they been praying? I got video. I even brought a guy with me to help interview a lot of them that had that experience. And I remember one lady. It was funny. She was a Sunday school teacher all her life, and then last thing she ever thought, her husband would pass away. She would continue to physically decline. Her children would say, well, we need to get you closer to us. She would move from a different community to Siloam Springs because that's where her children live, and she had to be in a rehab to get caregiving. And it was just a different place where she had no relationships, and she had to adjust and adapt. But she got the purpose of prayer through this Kind at Heart initiative. And I remember talking to her, and she would tell me, she said on video, we got this on video, I was a Sunday school teacher, and ever since I've been here, I felt like I don't have purpose. And she said, now I have this, and it had, on one side, it had a picture of all my staff and their first names. And then on the back of it, it had the 10 top initiatives Kind at Heart has for them to pray over. And she said, I bleed tears for this. And that year we had to have a miraculous blessing from the Lord financially. And that year God came through, and that was the year leading up to our new endowment. And I give all that year when we were praying for that, one of the things that God put in place for Kind at Heart is a future endowment fund. And just after that season of prayer where these 20 people in that nursing home prayed, I get a call from a guy that's with a foundation. He says, this foundation is fixing to go away, and we've looked at all the ministries we've been supporting all these years, and we've chosen Kind at Heart as one of the organizations we want to help forward the future. And I'm like, okay, what is that? He says, well, if you can go and get $50,000 and you'll set up an endowment, we'll put $350,000 in there.
Oh, wow.
And I'm just like, but I knew it was from this. And so what the operations now does is it draws money, 5% off of that, to help grow our operations. And it's a income that'll help us grow the future. Yeah. And we're planning to grow that to, my next goal is $3.5 million. So I want to have enough money to just continue to grow with our plans. Now, this initiative this year is to really take that to the next step.
Okay.
And so what that would mean is God's given me a vision, and this is something that I've been looking at for a couple years now. And I start going and I start doing it, and I'm like, Lord, why can't I get this up? Why can't I get this mural up? Why can't I know the people and I know the organization, but it was a timing thing. And God is wanting us to rise up this movement where the church as a whole can connect with Kind of Heart's vision here and start doing it in-house in their own. Their own. And it is just a timing thing. And so this next year, we are putting together the Kind of Heart mural of 75 lighthouse prayer warriors, and they will be assigned to intercede over a specific area of the organization. And their name and their time they're doing it will go there. And when they pass, they will actually also be adopted into the Prayer Hall of Fame, and their prayers will continue to go because it's eternal. It's not just one we think it is, but that blessing is eternal.
Yeah.
If it's truly of God. And so you will be able to come into my office and see a mural of all these different areas of the ministry, and they will have a widow assigned to it, a graduation, and where we get somebody in their place when they pass on the live wall, and then the memorial wall. But legacy is a big part of this. And so I mentioned to you, my definition of legacy is it's not what you leave behind when it comes to things, but it's what you leave behind in people.
Yeah.
And so my heart is to see this raise up. I mean, it's not about Siloam Springs, even though it's about Siloam Springs.
Yeah.
That's where we are located, our home office. But we believe this is something that will take off across the world. This particular initiative, to me, seems like a very easy one for the church as a whole to grasp. I mean, I think they already want to do this. I think they want to challenge their seniors to be prayer warriors, and they want to identify, well, how can they be praying? Well, you mean we can have a widow interceding over our children? Name?
Right.
By name?
Yeah.
And we can, you can do this in every area of your body. And what will God do when you value that? I had a guy ask me, he said, and this is before I shared this with him, but he wanted me to pray. He said, Wayne, I had an injury on my shoulder. And he said, I want to pray for you, and I'm going to give you some names of some pastors to pray for you. And don't get me wrong, I love pastors praying for me. That's great. I seeked out pastors one morning because I had a project I had to lead. This is going back during the ice storm of 2009.
Oh.
We were doing a lot of service.
Yeah.
And here I am, and I'm asking these pastors. I'd hurt my shoulder. I couldn't move it at all. And I'd ask these pastors to pray for me. And they prayed for me. And then when I got to the assignment, guess what? I had no healing. But the guy we were serving, his name was Bob. And I'd been helping Bob on his area. He had like 19 trees down that we had to cut up and haul out. And I go up to Bob and I say, Bob, I can't move my arm. It's going to be hard to lead this project. I'm thinking about canceling. And I said, but I need you to pray for me. You know what Bob's response was? He says, I don't know how to pray. He says, you need to get a pastor for that. I said, I've already asked pastors to do that. I think I need you to pray for me. And he said, well, how do I do that? And I said, well, I just want you to touch my arm and say, this man has served me from his heart, and I pray that, God, if you're real, to heal him. And that little man in his upper 80s prayed for me that morning, and I received instant healing in my arm.
Oh.
I walked out of that cabin. I'm turning. I'm holding on stuff, and I lead that team, work a chainsaw all day long, and God revealed something to me. He said, there is a lost prayer. It's never about what you say, even though learning how to do a prayer is good. But what does God judge? What is God looking at? He's looking at the heart. We make it much harder.
Yeah.
And if you got a little lonely widow that stares out a window all day long, just wishing she had purpose, loves God, and you put something in her hand to pray over your church and your things, you watch God transform and restore and build.
Yeah.
And I believe it's a lost prayer that we're missing out on, and we're going after it.
Yeah.
And I had somebody ask me a while back, how many older people do you think pray for you, Brother Wayne? And I literally told them, I know more than 100 daily. In this mission, I have that many. Now, the problem is I don't have them on my mural assignment. I don't have something in their hand. I just take for granted they're praying for me. And I know they are. And so the reality is my success is because of that. But what if we could paint a picture that could be replicated and just go across our nation? And then we see these big topic items, same-sex marriage, children being abused, all these things that are really big topics, marriages being broken. How do we really see God move? We pray and we intercede, and this is another place that I know we can put in the hands of a widow. So that's what we're doing. We're going to have, and I hope I can bring your team over to see that. Actually, I'll sure send you a video when it's done. And I've got a lady on my staff that will be leading those. We have a core of widows, which will be praying over the core, and they will become a group that basically intercedes for everybody that's a Lighthouse Prayer and this mission. So I believe that if you can bring a core of them together, and once a quarter, we sit down with them and we tell them the mission and the needs we have, and they can intercede over the core, then you'll build a group that really, really keeps you strong. And so we're going to have that group, and then we're going to have all these other outside ones, and I'm getting them in nursing homes. I'm getting them everywhere. And so rise up an army of prayer intercessors. So that's that one.
Sweet.
I love this. This is so much more than I was even gathering through your website.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always known going out and doing projects and building the ramps, and I had been very familiar with that. But to hear the passion and the goal and the purpose, like you said, it is just when people age, there are so many little things that you kind of take for granted that you don't realize you struggle with, from physical changes, heart changes, loss of purpose, loneliness, and to hear how you're honoring these people and saying, no, God still has a plan for you. He's not done with you.
That's right.
He'll take you when he's done, but he's not done with you. While you're here, you've got work left to do. I think that's beautiful.
We have our outreach in the nursing home, which is where it started, and we still do. I do a church service every Friday morning at one of our nursing homes. And I come in there, and I'm always called all the time as Wayne Revere. You know why they call me Wayne Revere? Because I'm not saying the British are coming. I go in there saying Jesus is coming.
Oh, cool.
And you've got so many all across the board, different areas, different spiritualities, their beliefs. And you come in there and you say, hey, you know what? I get it. Life's been hard.
Yeah.
But right now is a season in your life to get it right. There's no reason for you to let what left currency you have in time, which is your most valuable currency, is time.
Yeah, sure.
To make mistakes. You got to get it right now. And then find that purpose and go after it. Redeem your family. Restore your family. Renew those relationships. Get rid of those hardships and those thoughts of resentment and vengeance that you have, like many of them have in that season of their life.
Yeah.
Because they feel like people's abandoned them. And I think of, little Ursula. Unbelievable. I used to pick Ursula up, and she wanted ministry. She was a Jew that actually, came over to the States. And I was not Jew, but a German lady. So she had a strong personality. And she was involved in the day of the Holocaust. So she knew all about that. She married an American soldier. That American soldier is how she became a citizen of the United States. Her husband was murdered by a lady. She witnessed to this lady in prison and led her to the Lord. Wow. And Ursula, when she got saved, she committed her whole life to the Lord. I found Ursula at the end of her life, a strong personality. Most people avoided her because she's going to get you saved. And oh no, there's Ursula, so we're getting around. She saved me yesterday. I'm going around to this day. But I found Ursula and I said, Ursula, how can I help you do ministry? Mm-hmm. And she was like, nobody's ever asked me that. You're serious? And I'm like, yeah. And she goes, well, what do you do? And I tell her about my ministry in the nursing home. And she goes, I could go with you. And I start taking her to nursing home. Now, I had issues with her sometimes. Christmas time, she'd be ripping off the Santa Clauses off the doors and stuff like that. And I'd ever say, Ursula, you're going to get us kicked out of here. But anyhow, her heart was to share Jesus. Mm-hmm. And she went underneath my wing for a good year and a half. And I'd take her, pick her up. She'd go with me. She'd pray, intercede for me, loved God. And then afterwards, I'd take her to Kentucky Fried Chicken to get her mashed potatoes and gravy. She had no teeth. And and then I took her to certain places where people tolerated her strong personality. Mm-hmm. And I knew exactly where we were going. And those people were there to love on her. And it was just God had called me to help Ursula champion her end. Mm-hmm. And I just the other day run into her son. She's been gone for about 5-6 years now. And her son at an event, he said, thank you for helping Mom. Mm. And I've learned that a big part of Kind at Heart's mission is helping the family help their loved one. Mm-hmm. And what I'm excited about more than anything is helping the church love these people. Mm-hmm. And the majority of Kind at Heart people that we serve are unchurched. Why? Because they have either been hurt, had a church hurt, or they just can't get around and go somewhere. Mm-hmm. And then the church is moving all these directions and they feel like they're left out. Mm-hmm. Even just, you can't expect grandma to change her ways at 95 to suit your new ways. And so we got to realize, loud music may not be the way for them. So how do we adapt? How do we figure that out? But I'll tell you how you win them the best and how you win them well is you're there for them in a practical way. Okay. One story as I get ready, I know we're getting close to our time, but I'll never forget Louise. Louise was a widow. She lived at home and she lived on Elm Street. I grew up in an unchurched, unchristian home. And my sisters watched a lot of horror films. And there was this horror movie, Elm Street. Was not good. If you've ever heard those come out, this Friday the 13th Elm Street thing. Don't want to give you no pictures in your head about that gore. But anyhow, we watched that film. And as a Christian and a follower, I'm like, Lord, I'm going to turn Elm Street, instead of Nightmare on Elm Street, I'm going to turn it into Blessings on Elm Street. And I meet Louise. How I met Louise was her neighbor, Anita. We built a ramp for Anita. And I asked Anita, is there anybody else you know? Because we ask that's how we get a lot of other ramps, is through referrals. Okay. And so I said, is there anybody else you know? And she goes, my neighbor needs one. That was Louise. Well, meet Louise. And then she says, my neighbor needs one. That's Lois. And then before we knew it, we had 5 ramps. And we built all those in 2 weeks, right there on the same street. Cool thing is, I'll never forget, the funeral director, Tim. The funeral home was right there at the end of Elm Street. And he calls me up and he says, Wayne, because I do a lot of funerals. I focus on those. If I'm going to do a funeral, it's because it's probably somebody that's in a nursing home or homebound that doesn't have a church or a pastor. I do those. They call me for those. And anyhow, he said, Wayne, he said, I've never wanted, we make sure that we take this when we leave out of here, we go down Elm Street now. Because all them signs and all those people serving, people can see them. We just love that. I just wanted you to know, thank you for that. And so since then, we've just kind of kept Elm Street underneath our wing as a street we want to serve on a regular basis. But I say this because I learned about Louise, and not only did she need a ramp, all of her friends needed a ramp, But Louise also told me about how she had, every time she'd pull out of her driveway, her car, many times she would have to call a wrecker because it was too narrow and she would go into the ditch. And so she was just afraid to go places because she was afraid of that.
Yeah.
But she said, now, Brother Wayne, you did all this already, and I know you can't do that because that costs too much. And I said, what? I don't care how much it costs. I said, it needs to be fixed. And my God, your God, can fix it. And you know what her response was? Well, don't ask my church. And here's why. She says, I love my church, and I know where they're at financially, and I don't want to be a burden to them. And that's just a real feeling. We have to realize that.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, are you okay if I don't ask your church, but I ask somebody that maybe goes to your church, and if for some reason he felt like we should ask your church that you'd reconsider? And she goes, maybe, depends on who it is. So anyhow, I call an individual that goes to church, and he says, you got to ask the missions committee. And so I asked the missions committee. They give $500 to that. And then I ask a business that's just right down at the junction of that street. They give another $500. I have a contractor come out and look at it. The cost was $3,500 to renew her driveway. He says, I'll do it for $1,500. And right there I said, all I need is $500 to solve this. And I went into the grocery store just down the road there, and one of the guys that was there was the owner, and he's passed now, but he used to support a lot of my projects. And I said, she's right here. He said, I know her. She comes in here and shops. She goes, we'll take care of that.
Wow.
And she got a new driveway, a new ramp, and then we didn't stop there. We pursued to try to put a bath shower in for her. But unfortunately, I didn't get that solved before she fell in the shower and hit her head. And she ended up living about a couple of months after that and ended up passing. I tell that because it doesn't stop with one project.
Yeah.
It stops, if this is my mom or this is my grandma, what would I want to do for her?
Yeah.
Like Miss Berger. All you're doing is exercising. This is our grandma of the faith.
Yeah.
We got to solve this.
Yeah.
God is big enough. I get it, we can't do them all.
Right.
But we can do one at a time. One at a time, we can tell the story. And you'll be surprised in a year's time how many you can if it's in your agenda and you're intentional.
Yeah.
That's my heart, to see that happen.
Thank you so very much. We've really enjoyed this.
100%. Yes.
Yeah. There's so much more, and if you want to know more about Kind at Heart, there's a couple of places that we send people. Go to our website. That is kindatheart.org. If you want to put the 3 W's in there, you can. You don't have to. But kindatheart.org takes you to our website. Keep in mind that it's not just doing projects. It's about encouraging these people in a long-lasting way, building relationships. And we also have a new agricultural program where we're teaching people, young people, to do gardening. And then we're delivering those vegetables to the doors of our seniors. And so we're fighting hunger there, and we're connecting generations through that program. And then, one that we're most in front of us is how do we raise awareness and spread the kindness within the church?
Yeah.
Point them toward prioritizing this mission as one of their big things they want to do within the church movement. So, and then we have a social media page, Facebook page. You can go to Kind at Heart's Facebook and get all the live stories and different things you'll do. You'll see all kinds of stuff there. I'm sure you pick up some of that stuff. And you can see I talk a lot, so my team don't have a problem getting a video out of me. And so, anyhow, God bless you guys. Thank you very much. I appreciate this.
Well, thank you so much for being here.